I understand. You're scared. You're thinking like, oh my God, if I lose my job, I'm just screwed, right? But let me tell you this. The United States government, banks, they want you to borrow money. They want you to continue to pay that interest and taxes and insurance. It's what keeps our economy spinning around. So when the pandemic hit and everybody lost their job or was shut down, what was put in place by mortgage companies? Does anybody know?
Mortgage support, relief systems.
Forbearance. Everybody went into forbearance. Mortgages were modified. They want to keep you in the house. In fact, I have a client right now who has been on a notice of default for over a year. Over a year, she has not paid her mortgage, and we just had a conversation with the lender, and they're giving her another 6 months on top of the year, and I think it's been a year and a half now. I think November starts the new 6 months. And there's always the possibility of them selling the property. And then when I sell the property, what do I get to keep after it's gone? What if I bought the property 3 years ago and I've got $50,000 in extra equity? Does that go? If I sell the property because I lost my job and I can't afford the mortgage anymore, I get that money.
You get the equity?
I get the equity, yeah. Foreclosure means I'm giving the property back to the bank. But if I sell the property before the foreclosure proceedings and there's money left over, I get the money. In fact, I've helped a lot of people that are on the brink of foreclosure sell their property and get the money. And then they go rent somewhere or they go do something else. Some of them buy another property just at a cheaper rate. Okay, one more thing. What was I going to say? They get to also, if you lose your job, can you rent out a property that you own?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if I rent and the seller decides that they want to sell the property, they only have to give me a 60-day notice. And it's no guarantee that I'm going to get to stay in the property. And my rent's probably going to go up, right? If I own the property, let me go back to the situation. If I lose my job and I'm in a rental property, they're going to give me about 90 days before they're going to bring the cops to the house and kick me out. And I have been there with the cops when we kick someone out. It's not fun. They have to pack all of their stuff and take it outside. And if you don't have a moving truck, sorry about your luck. You got to take the stuff and leave. But if I own a property and I lose my job, the bank is going to give me some kind of assistance to help me with my mortgage, or I can rent out the property, or I can sell the property. All of those things are safer than renting. All of them. So if somebody brings up, oh, interest rates are just so high, then I move into the direction of, well, let's discuss why interest rates are not the most important factor here. Because if we're really looking for long term, if you want security and you want stability and you want to build long term, even if you're not even worried about wealth, a lot of people don't care about money. They're not worried about money. They're just worried about having a place to live. And they're worried about expenses, right? I understand that she's worried about the water heater. She still pays for a water heater. She just pays it in her rent. And if her water heater goes out, this is another thing renters don't understand. If her water heater goes out and it's any negligence of her, then she's responsible for it.
So it sounds like people, for one, they don't have savings. So they're already arguing against the fact that, hey, I don't have anything to put down on this, but there's ways around that, right? And then the other thing is that rent provides somewhat, even with all these arguments, I think in a renter's mind, it provides them with consistency. they say they sign a year lease or a 3-year lease in my sister's case, and for those 3 years, she has consistency while, say, going through school, and all sorts of things can change there. And I feel like in someone's mind like that, they're allowed to concentrate more by dishing out more money. They are able to concentrate on those things that they see as bigger issues.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to convince anybody to buy a house they don't want to.
Mhm.
If your sister says, yeah, I don't want to buy a house, then there's no way you're going to convince them. If it was my sister, 3 years of stability, that's not stability. Stability is 30 years. Stability is, I know where I'm going to be 10 years from now. Stability is while she's studying and working and paying her, that when she's all done with school, she looks back and says, I have $100,000 in a nest egg that I can refinance and pull out of my home and use to fund my new career or my new business or whatever I'm doing. So that's now, again, you're never going to convince anybody to buy a house they don't want to. There's no pitch, there's no script, there is nothing in the world that will convince them. However, when I make my phone calls, I'm not really concerned with them buying right now. I'm just being honest. Like, the last thing I'm going to do on a phone call is talk to somebody, and by the time they get done with me, they've completely changed their mind and now they're buying a house tomorrow. It's not going to happen that way. But what I do is I plant seeds. Some of the people I know, I've been planting seeds for years, and it comes around. So I wouldn't say that it's like about convincing someone, but at least this will give you some talking points for those that are maybe like on the fence. And they're like, well, my rent is my rent is this, and it just feels so easy, right? Okay, well, what happens when this happens? What happens if this, right? In 3 years, are you going to make more money to where if your landlord raises the rent 10%, you'll be able to afford it? So imagine you're paying $2,000, 10% is $200. For most people, that's not something that they can account for a year, that raising up every year. On my rental property, I raised the rent twice in the last year. And I will continue to raise it until I'll continue to raise it until the end of time. Because rentals are a business for landlords. They are strictly a business. And so that's what I think about too when I think about renting, is that I'm just kind of paying somebody for a service when I could just do it myself. Does that make sense? I want to pay myself for my housing. I don't want to pay somebody else for my house. Okay. That's just a little bit of help for when you're talking to people, when they talk about interest rate. It's not the interest rate at the end of the day. No matter what the interest rate is, it's going to be a good idea to buy. Especially because when you think about the grand scheme of things, 5 years ago, when I bought my first house, my interest rate was 5.5%. 8 years ago, when I got into the business, interest rates were at 6 and 7%. Most of the people that I was selling homes to, they had this interest rate right now. So it's not, I think a lot of people are used to the 2.3%, 3.5%. And when I hear people say, oh, well, you could just refinance later. Probably not, only because the only reason that we had interest rates at 2 and 3% was because the government was artificially lowering those interest rates. They might not ever do that again. The only time they usually do that is when there's a crisis, like the pandemic. But we all know what the pandemic did to us too. So do we really want that? Now, interest rates might drop down to like maybe around a 4 or a 5%, which is beautiful. That's around average. But it's just important to note that we don't necessarily have a crystal ball knowing that interest rates are going to drop. However, that's not the ultimate factor when buying a house. The interest rate should not be the factor when you're buying a house. It should be, do you want to make a bunch of money? And are you ready? Are you ready? And if they are ready and money is holding them back, there's down payment assistance. I bought my first, or I was helping people in this exact kind of market in 2015, 16, 17. I had clients who had zero money in the bank. They probably had like $3 grand, $5 grand in the bank, maybe. And I was getting them down payment assistance. The seller was paying all of their closing costs, and I was helping buyers get into properties for less than 1%. That is here again. That's the most beautiful thing ever. So if you're calling through your sphere or you're calling through your people and you're hearing people say, I don't have down payment, I'm scared about the interest rate, I want you to stop them and say, we can help you with that. We can get you down payment assistance. We can get you interest rate buy down, or we can get you closing costs paid for. There are creative ways out there for us to do that.
Amy?
Yes.
I actually like this one from, well, it was given to me by one of our local title company.
Mm.
And it shows exactly the benefit of buying.
I love it.
It has like, it shows the diagram of how much you rent. I don't know if you can see it. But
you've got your background blurred. We can't see anything.
Yeah. So basically it has the, how much you rent. And it shows here, if you're renting like 1,500 a month, you know, it calculates how much is that in 30 years. And it shows like you spend 540 and that could have been a house paid off.
Yeah, your house could have been paid off. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like amazing how if you just show this to people who are renting, they see the number, it just makes sense to them to buy.
Sometimes. The other issue, well, you know, like Jordan said, or actually somebody said, you know, they've been conditioned. Right?
That's, I mean, you can't convince, same thing like our kids, we have kids, you can't convince them to go to college if they don't want to.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So it's about planting seeds. And the thing is that some people don't understand wealth. They don't know what that can do for them. And that's why I tell them, you know, like, I kind of get real with people and I'm like, well, you know, if they're like, yeah, my parents always rented, they never, okay, well, what do your parents have now? What do your parents have? Do your parents have a retirement? How long do you think that they'll be working? My duplex that I own, that's the first home I ever bought, will retire me. I do not need to worry about retirement anymore. I bought that property and that property will continue to build equity. And by the time I'm 80 something years old or whenever I retire, hopefully sooner than that, that will take care of me. Do they have anything like that? The average American, by the time that they retire, loses 60% of their income, even with their 401k and pensions and all of that stuff. 60%. Do you have a plan for that? And a lot of younger people are like, no, I have no plan. Okay, look at your parents. And how hard do they have to work still? Are your parents retiring? Have you talked to your parents about their finances? What happens when your parents are too old to take care of themselves? Who's going to take care of them then? Do you have $5,000 a month to pay for an old folks home? Do your parents have that? These are actually real questions. And I know that it sounds like, ooh, that's really deep, but I get deep with my people. Like, if I know them pretty well, I get pretty deep with them. And the reason being is because no one's talking about this. The average American is one emergency away from being homeless and living in poverty. And by the time that they get to retirement age, they're even closer to that. They're living on pennies. Most of their money is going towards medical costs. And their children are then faced with the burden of having to care for one or two elderly parents on the same income that they've always had, living in a rental that then sends them a lease update that says we're raising your rent $200 a month. Oh my God. That's not stability. My second property that I own, it will pay for my parents to be taken care of. It will pay for them to manage things. If I need to put someone into a home, I'll have money to do that. Here you go, put them in a home. So this is the reason why I started building real estate, is that I'm looking at my entire life and I'm like, oof, what happens if something bad happens? And I think that a lot of us don't like to go there, but that's the first thing that I think of is like, okay, well, what happens when I'm, in a car accident and I can't walk anymore? Or what happens if I get sick, right? All these kinds of things. So these are just the kinds of conversations that I have with the people that I care about in my sphere, as I talk to them about this. What kind of plans do they have? And sometimes they're like, I'm not really thinking about that right now. Okay, great. No problem. Hey, but I'm here for you. And if you have any questions about this or this comes up later, I want you to know that I'm here. But if you hit them with these kinds of questions that are like asking them bigger questions than what they're used to being asked, you are now framing yourself as a consultant, as an expert, as somebody who's thinking of their best interests, not just somebody that wants to sell them a house. I don't care about selling them a house. In fact, I even tell them like, and honestly, this whole conversation, you can go buy a house through anybody. Like, I don't care. Just go buy a house. You could buy it through any other agent. I don't care. I just want you to buy a house. I just want to help you get into a more secure and stable position with your finances. And usually they appreciate that. All right, let's talk about some escrow stuff. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to go into the Ignite Toolkit. So this Ignite Toolkit that everybody has, it's really called the Ignite Business Resources for Agents. And inside of it has this toolkit. And then we're going to talk about the escrow process. So there's 3 things in this toolkit that will help you with your escrow processes. Number 1 is I'm in escrow, now what? This is 4 pages of every step you need to take throughout the entire escrow process. Escrow means that you have an accepted offer on your listing, or you have an accepted offer on somebody else's listing. Does that make sense? Okay. Escrow, an escrow account. What is escrow? An escrow is just a third-party account where money is held until certain actions take place. You could have an escrow officer that handles an account if you're simply buying anything. Big art, like when you buy large art pieces, they usually go into an escrow account. The money goes into an escrow account. It is held in that escrow account. The ownership is transferred. Everything is transferred. The item is then given, and then the escrow funds are released. Why do you think that people enacted an escrow account to do dealings like that? Why wouldn't they just do the deal?
Bias.
Bias. Okay. What else?
To prevent from fraudulent activity.
Yeah, to prevent from fraud. So back in the day, before we had real estate agents or anything, the way that you would transfer property, I mean, this is like the 1800s. You would pick up a clod of dirt from your property and you would hand it to the other buyer. You would shake hands and it was a done deal. That is now your property. Can you imagine how many shootouts and deaths probably occurred over discrepancies between who owns what? And if there were only 2 people there that day, how do we really know if the property was transferred? We're kind of going off of people's handshake, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm a man of my word, a woman of my word, and I'm sure all of you are too, but is everybody?
Nope.
No. Look at the amount of politicians that get charged with a crime. You would be astounded with the amount of politicians that go to jail on a regular basis. And these are the people that we've appointed to our government, right? So, and I'm not cynical about it. That's just life, and that's just human nature. People forget, people misinterpret, people have their own understandings, people have their own biases, and people have their own needs to be met. And human nature is to survive, and survival is, and self-preservation is huge. Therefore, everything needs to be in writing. Everything needs to be in writing, and everything needs to be managed. And when you're transferring real estate to each other, we use an escrow company to do that. The escrow company gathers the contract documents from both sides, both parties, and it reads those documents and it says, okay, this is exactly how it's supposed to go. Buyer's going to pay $350,000. Buyer's going to give a $3,500 deposit. Buyer's going to get a loan. Buyer's going to get inspections. Do you see what I mean? And then they hold the buyer to it. The seller decides, I don't want to sell this property to them anymore. I'm backing out. Well, they have to go through escrow first. Escrow then reads the contract and says, oh, unfortunately, it says you can't back out. But if there was no escrow, what could go wrong, right? So escrow is the third party that enacts the contract that both parties have decided upon, and they follow it to the letter. So they will not let you get away with anything. If it's not in the contract or both parties have to agree to it, nothing moves forward until they do. Okay, so that's my really bad explanation of escrow, because I'm not an escrow officer. You can contact any escrow company and they would be happy to sit you down, try to help you get more business, talk to you about escrow, hook you up with an escrow officer, tell you about title. You could probably get all kinds of stuff from them to help you with your business. They can help you start farms. They can help you get phone numbers, emails, all kinds of stuff, right? They can't do everything for free. So that was one thing with the Dodd-Frank Act that was put into place, and RESPA, is that escrow cannot pay for anything for you. They also can't just give you anything that they would pay for free. So if they have to pay for it, you have to pay for it. So just keep that in mind. So you're in escrow, now what? That means you have a contract. You've got an accepted contract. They're going to call it being an escrow, what have you. If the thing that I like about this list is that it's everything that needs to be done. It doesn't mean that you have to do it. It's just everything that needs to be done. And when you're a real estate agent and you're working these deals, you're going to be working with another person that's either the listing agent or the buyer's agent. And I'm going to warn you right now, they're not always going to do their job correctly. However, you are ultimately responsible for your file, and you are ultimately responsible for the entire escrow because you're a fiduciary to your buyer. So I've been in several escrows where the other agent is not doing their job. That doesn't mean that my job doesn't get done, or that I don't ask them to do their job, or that I don't facilitate them doing their job. I have even represented a buyer and sent the seller disclosures to sign because the listing agent didn't do it. So I have done things for the listing agent just to make sure that my buyer gets the property. Does that make sense? Because at the end of the day, you're just trying to get your client what they want. Okay. So every single step on here is what needs to be done for the transaction. Some other people are going to have to do it, and sometimes you have to do it. Most of the time, your transaction coordinator is going to handle a lot of this. So I'd like to kind of go over it just a little bit just to show you what happens. So as soon as you get into contract, the listing agent, whoever represents the seller and has the listing on the MLS, is going to update the MLS status to say that it's pending. You need this to happen. If you represent the buyer and you see that the listing agent hasn't marked it as pending, you reach out to the agent and say, hey, can you please mark it as pending? Thank you. The documents that you're going to need in order for it to be a fully executed purchase contract are all included right here. The residential purchase agreement, the BIA, the AD, the PRBS, those are all included in an offer packet. So they're all going to be there when you write an offer. The MLS printout, that's what you need that says pending. You need it to say pending so that you can print that out. If there's a counteroffer or any addendums, you'll need proof that the buyer has deposited their escrow, so that they put their deposit into escrow, right? And then if there's any kind of signing authorization, if they're buying on behalf of an LLC or any kind of business, there's going to be signing. All of this is collected by your transaction coordinator. Most of the paperwork, deadlines, accuracy, escrow information, all of that is collected by your transaction coordinator. The residential purchase agreement, the BIA, the AD, and the PRBS, those are going to be in that offer packet that you turned into the agent. As soon as you get that back signed, you can send it to your transaction coordinator and your lender if there's a loan right away. It even says that right here. So it says here, send all contract documents to the other agent, transaction coordinator, escrow officer, and the lender. The transaction coordinator is going to take over from there. They're going to collect escrow information, collect documents, put a timeline together, introduce themselves to your client, and start pulling stuff. They'll even order inspections for you if you would like. Most of the time, I order my own inspections. I like to be in charge of my calendar. I don't want somebody else to order them on a day I'm not free. So I order the inspections. That's the one thing that I need to do. All the paperwork goes to the transaction coordinator. I call and order inspections. The escrow officer is going to open escrow, order a preliminary title report, order the NHD, order HOA documents if needed. They're going to collect the CC&Rs on the title report. They're going to order, they're going to send wire instructions to the buyer so they can send in their deposit. So they're going to start working. Robert, you had a question?
Yes. Hi, Amy. So these
Hi.
documents, do they get mailed out, or is this something that's emailed to all the different players in this role right here? So the escrow officer, the lender, do they all get emailed, or is it mailed?
Nothing will be mailed. We would not be able to get anything done. So everything will be electronic. In fact, your email is now the most important piece of your life. If you're not used to checking your email before, you should be checking your email every single day now.
Thank you.
So yeah, escrow will email, everything's going to be sent through emails. All of these documents are going to be sent to you and hopefully your transaction coordinator. But if you see on the email that they didn't send it to your transaction coordinator, it's up to you to email it over to them. So I do a lot of forwarding. Forward. I just send it to my transaction coordinator. The lender is going to get your contract, and then they're going to work with escrow to start doing their thing. Escrow and the lender are going to talk to each other without you all the time. Your transaction coordinator is going to talk to escrow all the time without you, and that's okay. The buyer can call escrow directly. The buyer can call the lender directly. They don't have to go through you to talk to either one of those people. Your lender is going to work with escrow to disclose their fees to the buyer and any escrow fees. They're going to collect documents from the buyer to make sure that they get loan approval, and they're going to order the appraisal. You don't have anything to do with the appraisal. The other agent on the other end of it is going to communicate with you either way. Whether they work with the buyer or they work with the seller, there's going to be lots of communication that goes back and forth. If you order inspections and the seller lives in the house, you got to communicate that with the listing agent that you're going to get inspections done on a certain date. So just remember that. Your transaction coordinator is going to submit all of your documents into command compliance to make sure that you have a complete file. The office is going to review your file on a regular basis to make sure that everything is going the way that it should be. If you have a listing or a buyer in escrow, you have to submit this into command within 3 days of acceptance. So that way you can be in compliance. Your TC is going to take care of that for you. This is why we hire you a TC. We kind of force you to use a TC for your first 3 transactions. It's going to cost you $350. There are over 350 documents in every transaction. Essentially, you're paying $1 a document Totally worth it. I will never not use a transaction coordinator. I use one to this very day. Okay, so you've ordered inspections. We recommend that you order 4 inspections: the pest, the home, the sewer, the roof. If there's a pool, order a pool inspection. If there's a well, get a well inspection, right? So make sure that you know the components of the property beforehand. The buyer's agent, after they order inspections, they need to complete what's called an AVID, an AVID, Agent Visual Inspection Disclosure. The listing agent is also going to complete an Agent Visual Inspection Disclosure, and they're going to provide to you the seller disclosures. Your transaction coordinator is going to grab those documents and send them to your client for them to review and sign. In fact, this is all of the documents that are required in a seller disclosure packet. It's a lot. Half of them are California cover your butt disclosures. That's what I call them. So carbon monoxide detector notice, hazards booklet receipt, lead-based paint, NHD, the water heater, smoke detector, statewide buyer and seller advisory, earthquake report. All of these things are standard disclosures. The seller's not filling anything out. They really don't mean anything, to be perfectly honest. The only thing that they do is they protect the seller and the agents from getting sued. So the lead-based paint disclosure basically says, hey, if this house was built before 1978, there's probably lead-based paint. We don't know. CYA. The water heater smoke detector, seller's required to double strap the water heater and put in a smoke detector. FYI, there's nothing in there that's really like groundbreaking. Groundbreaking stuff that you need to look at: seller property questionnaire. This is filled out by the seller and it's in their own words, and they're telling you whether something is wrong with the property or not. Okay. The TDS, groundbreaking stuff. You got to look at that. So you got to look at the FPQ and the TDS with detail, because these are filled out by the seller. But in the grand scheme of things, you're going to hear from buyers. They're going to say, well, I want to see the seller disclosures before I put an offer on this property. And here's what you're going to get. Some listing agents have the sellers fill it out ahead of time. Some of them don't. They're not required to do any of that. I don't care what the seller has to say about a property, ever. If you're selling a property and you're not the most honest person in the world, are you going to tell everybody what's wrong with it? Like, let's be real. If you knew that there was some leak that was happening deep inside your house that you know nobody knows anything about, are you going to tell someone about it? Now, I'm a pretty upfront person, and I am a real estate agent. So in my mind, I'm like, well, yeah. However, I've been in this business long enough to know they don't. They're not going to tell you. I've had a seller fill out a property questionnaire. They actually added an entire bedroom to the house, and they said, no, I didn't. Yeah, you did. You paid you paid the contractor. You had him. No, I didn't. Okay, well, I know you did. So you see what I mean? So I don't care what these say. In fact, I know I have to review them. I know my client has to review them, but I do not care what they really say. In fact, the only thing I care about is getting these inspections done. If a buyer comes to me and says, well, I'll just look at the seller disclosures, that should be enough, right? No, it is not. Sellers have really, in the grand scheme of things, we don't know them as people, and we don't know how honest they're going to be. The only way, here's another way to look. Is the seller an expert in housing condition?
No.
Am I an expert at housing conditions?
No.
No. The only people that are expert in housing conditions are, and the seller could tell me, oh yeah, there's a leak in the bathroom, but like, could it be a small leak, a big leak? Well, how do we really know? We don't. So you have to get the inspections done. They're probably going to cost about $800 total. That's $800 you'll ever spend. I spent a couple, I didn't get all the inspections on properties that I buy, but I'm a real estate agent. I know my thing. I spent, I'm going to say $500 on inspections when I bought my last property. And I had about $13,000 worth of repairs that I got completed because I got those inspections done. I was able to use those inspections as leverage against the seller. So they fixed the property for me because there were some really big problems. So inspections are the most important thing. So I would not, the seller disclosures are important and we have to receive them and we have to review those documents, but they're not the end all be all. Not the end all be all. If like asking the seller, well, how old's the roof? Who cares? Don't ask the seller. So I get that a lot. Like I have a listing and people will call me and they'll be like, well, how old's the roof? And how old's the water heater? And I'm like, get an inspection. That's how old they are. No. I tell them, but it's just interesting to me. I could tell them anything. The house was built in 2004. The roof is from 2004. I don't know, right? And does that mean that it's in good condition? I've seen roofs that got put on last year that are literally failing because the person that put them on sucks at their job, for lack of a better word, right? So it's all about the inspections. Those are the most important things you can do. Okay. So then it goes through and it says you're going to review the seller disclosure packet. Once you get your inspections back, you're going to do a request for repairs. So you're going to request any repairs that you want done. And then once you've negotiated repairs, got the appraisal back, and the loan gets approved, you're going to remove your contingencies. So you're going to remove contingencies. Once you've removed contingencies, you're pretty much good to go. You're going to start moving towards close. You're going to submit everything to your file. Escrow is going to collect loan documents from the lender. Buyer's going to sign loan documents. Buyer's going to wire the rest of their money. The lender's going to wire the money. And then escrow is going to do what's called, they're going to release the file to record. So they're going to release the file to record. And that means that they've released the deed to the county to record. Once they've released the deed to the county, you're on record. That's what you're going to hear. Congratulations, we're on record. And then you're going to be able to give the keys to your client. So once you're on record, you're going to get the keys to the client, and then they're going to be able to move in. You'll probably get paid like a week later. So if you close on a Friday, you are not getting paid that weekend, right? You're probably going to get paid like by the next Friday. And here's why. Escrow closes on the property. Now they've got a bunch of like accounting work to do. They have to make sure that they did everything absolutely correct and all of the money is accounted for. Then they cut a check. The check is to the broker and then they mail it. Why? It's the worst, but they mail it. So now we got to wait for the mail. So they mail it to our office. Our office gets the check. We do a little bit of accounting for it. And then we do an automatic deposit to your bank account. Well, we can't deposit it to your bank account the same day. That's not how it works. It's usually the next day. So just know this. You should be getting paid about 7 days after you close. That depends 100% on the day that you close and the title company that you close with. I've had title companies forget to draw the check. I've had title companies lose my check. I've had the mail lose my check. Things happen. So don't be banking on getting paid like right when it closes, okay? Once you've given the keys to your client, the listing agent's going to change the MLS to sold. They're going to take the sign out. They're going to remove the lockbox. If you're the listing agent, that's all that you're going to do. So so this is available to you so that you have step-by-step everything that you need to do. Like I said, your transaction coordinator is going to help out with a ton of this stuff. Your main job is to get the contract, get it into contract, order inspections, negotiate for repairs. If the appraisal comes in any different than contract, negotiate the appraisal, and then do the final walkthrough and show up with them to sign documents, right? It's pretty easy. Honestly, once you get this down and you get your systems in place, closing real estate now for me is like easy peasy. That's why I'm able to do coaching. That's why I'm able to be a team leader. I'm able to do these things because it's actually a very simple job. And it's pretty much the same process every single time. You also have this amazing thing called the perfect 30-day escrow. Oops. Got a little crazy there. So if you got your offer accepted on the 1st of the month and you had a 30-day escrow, this tells you every single step and what day it's going to be performed. Of course, we don't do anything on the weekends, so this is a little off. But I just wanted you to understand this is why you're able to get it done in 30 days. This is everything that needs to happen. So, and it even shows you what's what. So you got an offer accepted? Great. Submit executed contract to title and title info to the lender and to the TC ASAP. The buyer's agent needs to order inspections. On the 3rd day, the deposit is due. You also need to have your file submitted to your broker. And your buyer needs to sign lender disclosures. So this is all happening in the background. The lender's doing their job, getting disclosures. Escrow's telling the buyer to get the deposit to title. And then as soon as the buyer signs lender disclosures, the appraisal is ordered. Once on the 5th day, the agent is recommended to do their avid. So within 5 days of getting into contract, you need to go to the property and get your avid done. Do it alone. Do not do your avid when the home inspector is at the property. If you're doing your avid at the property and the home inspector is there and he finds something and tells you about it, now you have to write that down. It's a headache. Don't do it. Go before the inspection. So what I like to do is if I have to open the door for the inspector, I'm going to get there like a half hour ahead of time and do my avid all by myself. And then when the inspector comes, he can do his job. So I perform my avid, the buyer to return all lender requested information and underwriting begins. This is one of the biggest things. Buyers have to turn in their documents quickly. I tell all my buyers, now that we're getting into escrow, we're going to get into escrow and things are going to move really fast. The lender is going to ask you for things. You cannot wait 3 days to turn those in. You have to turn them in like within 24 hours. So if you have any trouble with any of the documents, I want you to reach out to me. Okay, I want you to let me know right away so that I can help you with this. The seller is going to provide HOA information. The escrow office is going to provide the preliminary title report, the NHD report, and the seller disclosures. All of this is due within 7 days of an accepted offer. The contract defaults to that. So the seller has to get you all these documents within 7 days. If they don't, they are now considered breach of contract. That doesn't mean anything crazy. It just means that whenever they do hand you those documents, you now have 5 days to review them. Okay. That's why a lot of times agents will get those disclosures done ahead of time. So that way they can give them to you on day 1. That way you don't get that extra 5 days. By the 10th of the month, all of your inspections should, or by day 10, all of your inspections should be completed. You should be ready to submit some kind of repair request. If you order your inspections late, the seller does not care. Like if you got your offer accepted and then you forgot to order inspections and then you called around and you can't find anybody to get it done within that time frame, keep calling. It's not, they don't care. In fact, they can send you what's called a notice to perform. And if you don't remove the contingency in the time frame, which is 3 days, they can cancel on you and move on. You don't want to do that to your buyer. There's nothing worse than somebody canceling on you because you didn't do your job and your buyer loses out on a property. Usually within 10 to 14 days, the appraisal has been completed. Underwriting reviews the appraisal and issues loan conditions. So there's a lot of paperwork that it takes to get a loan. It's pretty rare that they're underwritten upfront. The buyer usually needs to submit a lot of documents. So after the appraisal is done, you'll get conditional loan approval. And then there's probably some extra stuff that the buyer needs to provide. If the buyer can get everything to the lender on time, you'll have no problem closing in 30 days. Most of the time, if you're not closing on time, it's because of the lender, AKA it's because of the buyer. A lot of people go around and say, oh, this lender sucks. They didn't close on time. What they don't understand is that the buyer took 4 days to get them a bank statement. Or the buyer spent their down payment money and they had to go get a gift. And now we need to get a letter from the gift giver. And now we need to put the letter in front of the underwriter. Do you see what I mean? Like buyers usually hold this up. So I stay on top of my buyers and every day I'm checking in. Hey, I'm just checking in with you. Did you get everything the lender needs? I'm constantly in contact with the lender. Like, what do we need? What do we need? What do we need? Where are we at? What can we do? This is why I like to work with lenders that know me and that have worked with me before. So that way they're not trying to give me the cold shoulder because they will. By the week of the 15th, the buyer should have signed all of the seller disclosures. Reports should be in. The appraisal should have been negotiated. Repairs should have been negotiated. The buyer's agent should be able to remove the loan appraisal contingency and the inspection contingency if possible. By the 20th day, your commission demand should be out and you should be looking at that to make sure that you're going to get paid correctly and that everybody else that you owe money to is going to get paid correctly too, right? And who does that mean? That means the office, transaction coordinator, coaching. There's actually instructions in the Ignite toolkit on how commissions work. If there was any inspections that needed to be, or any repairs that needed to be done in order for the property to appraise, a reinspection will be done after the repairs are done. Repairs can hold up a timeline too. That's why a lot of people say, oh, we'll just take the credits. They get closing cost credits instead of repairs, and then you get to close on time. If you turn in your inspections and a repair request on the 10th, and you need a new roof, probably not going to get done in the next 3 weeks. You're going to have to wait, right? Okay. I feel like I've filled your heads with a bunch of stuff, so I want to take a little bit of a break. Okay. It's 2:10 right now. How do we feel about a 10-minute break? Come back at 2:20? Good? Okay, I'm going to give you guys some music. We'll be back at 2:20 to finish this out. All right. All right, a little break did us good, I think. Coming back here. How's everybody doing? I know we're gonna have a few people straggling, so I'm just gonna kind of like give us some time. Bring it back in. Share my screen with you guys so that way you can see the escrow process again. All right, so I think we left off at commissions and the appraisal. So yes, the appraisal could possibly come up with some problems. There are some repairs that might need to be made in order for the appraisal to be what it is. And those repairs are on the seller. Those repairs have to be negotiated ahead of time, not ahead of time, but when you get the appraisal back, it's going to say repairs needed. I just send that to the listing agent and say, here you go, get the repairs done. We need to close. Hopefully they're done by the 21st day. And if they are, the appraiser will come out and re-inspect and give you the go ahead. Okay, so then the last week of closing is actually a week-long process. It's not like a day. There's no closing day. There is a closing day. It's the day that the deed is recorded, but you cannot in any capacity determine the closing day. In fact, most timelines with a real estate contract are very fluid, meaning that you might need inspections to be done on the 10th, but technically, if they're not done, the only thing the seller can do is send you what's called a notice to perform, which then gives you another 3 days to perform. And even then, if you don't make it in the 3 days, the seller could cancel or just extend or let it go. So just know that a timeline is very fluid. So don't quote timelines to your client. Like, I always under promise, over deliver. So if my client reaches out to me and says that they want to call and I'm busy, I usually tell them, okay, I'm going to give you a call at this time. And it's like hours after I'm actually going to call them. And the reason being is that I want to set very low expectations so that way I can actually exceed them. If you have a client that's like, well, I want a lender to reach out to me, and you say, okay, I'm going to have the lender reach out right away. And then the lender's busy and they can't get back to them until the next day, they're going to be disappointed. So I always say, okay, I'm going to have a lender reach out to you. They will get back to you as soon as they can. I'd say give them about 24 hours to call you back. Okay. Because I just want to make sure that people are set up for success. If the lender gets back to them before the 24 hours, woohoo, right? So I always let my clients know, we're going to try to close this deal in whatever days are on the contract, 21, 30, whatever. Okay, we're going to try to close this deal in 30 days. But I just want you to know there's nothing to say that there won't be delays. Sometimes escrows can get delayed up to 2 weeks, sometimes longer. If you are in a lease and you want to give your notice, do not give notice until halfway through. Right around 15 days in, this is when you should give notice. And you don't give a 15-day notice so that you have to move out on the 30th. You give a 30-day notice. Because I would rather close escrow on the 30th of the month and have 2 weeks to move in than close escrow on the 30th and I needed to move in yesterday. Does that make sense? I've actually had clients that we never signed loan documents. The entire process was delayed, right? And on the day that they were supposed to close, which wasn't happening because of them, but also because of other extenuating circumstances, they showed up to the house in a moving truck with all of their stuff. And they called me and said, can you come and let us in? And I was like, why would you do that? And they said, well, you told us that it was going to close in 30 days. Today's the day. So be very clear with your clients. The day of closing is not guaranteed. A 30-day escrow is not guaranteed. The house being ready at the time that you want it is not guaranteed. I've had sellers decide that they're not leaving. That, yeah, we closed escrow, but I still got stuff there, so I'm not giving the keys up. There's been all kinds of reasons that it's been delayed. So I like to give my clients leeway. So I tell them, if you are renting an apartment and you have a lease or you need to give a 30-day notice, you need to give the 30-day notice on like day 15 through 21. That way you have some time to feel good about it, right? If they're selling a home and buying another, there's usually what we call a rent back in place. So if you have a client that's selling a home that they live in and they're buying another one, they need to be able to stay in the original home for at least 2 weeks after close of escrow so that they can clean it, move all of their stuff into their new home. So just whatever you do, bake in some extra days into everything. Okay. If I get an accepted offer, I don't wait. I order inspections that day. I don't wait to order inspections. I don't say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. It happens the day. Like as soon as I get the accepted offer, I call the inspection company and order it because I want inspections to happen within the first 4 days. I would rather know immediately whether we're going to back out of this property than wait 2 weeks. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so the last week, here's what happens. If you have final loan approval and the lender says, loan approved, we're good to go. Okay, great. The lender then has to request loan documents from the documents department of their company. It's not them. They don't write the documents. So they request it from them. That can take up to 3 days for them to get that to you. So the lender gets the documents and they get them to escrow. Escrow then goes through the documents to make sure they're correct. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they have to send it back to the lender. And then it's another day, right? So the lender sends the loan documents to escrow, and then escrow will call either you or the buyer directly and set up a signing appointment. You want to be at every signing appointment. I know a lot of agents that don't do signing appointments. That's fine. But the client's going to see how much commission you made on their closing statement. And if you're not there, they're going to be looking around wondering why you got paid $10,000 and you're not there. Your signing appointment is one of the most important appointments for you to be at. You're not going to have a lot to do. In fact, you're probably just going to be there for moral support. That's what I say. I'm just here to look pretty and give moral support. That's my line. But the reason that I'm there is because that's what I'm there for. I'm their fiduciary. If they have any questions that they need to ask, I want to be there to help facilitate that. The number one thing that you can do to control your business is be there. If the buyer is going to meet with the inspector of the property, you need to be there. Now, I use certain inspection companies, but they switch people out all the time. I have had inspectors scare the crap out of my buyers. And I have had to go back through and say, look, calm down. Not as big a deal as he's making it out to be, right? I have had lenders scare my clients. I have had escrow people scare my clients. I have had escrow signings where the signing person was brand new, had no idea what they were doing. And if I would have left them alone with my client, Lord knows what would have gone down. So I always recommend to be there. As long as you're there, you can control the outcome, right? So the lender signs loan documents and then the buyer's agent performs a final walkthrough. So I put this in here because sometimes it happens before or after. Your final walkthrough needs to happen before you close escrow. The point of a final walkthrough is to see the house and make sure that it's in the exact condition that you want it to be in for you to take possession. It could happen the day that you sign documents. It could happen the day before. It could happen the day after. All that needs to happen is it needs to happen before you close escrow. The reason being is that if you walk into the house and the kitchen was set on fire and no one told you, you're going to want to have time to postpone escrow closing. Because obviously you're not going to take the property in its new condition. Okay. After you perform the final walkthrough, the buyer can send their money to escrow. The lender sends their money to escrow. Once escrow has all of the money and everything they need. They're going to release the deed to record with the county. And then you're going to get a notification that says, congratulations, we're on record. And that's when you get to call your client and say, congratulations, you're homeowners. I'm going to meet you at the property tonight to give you the keys or whatever you're going to do. Sometimes you meet at the property. Sometimes you got to go get the keys and take them to the buyer somewhere else. There's all kinds of different strategies to go about that. My favorite is to give keys at the property because I want to take pictures. But sometimes I don't get to give the keys that day. It's like moving day a week later. Well, then I give the keys to them then. Right? Any questions about this so far?
Amy?
Yeah.
I have a question. What if the buyer, instead of after the inspection, don't ask for any fixer and they want to do it? So they're asking for buyer's credit instead.
Yeah, then you submit a request for buyer's credit for the seller to give the buyer a credit. And then once the seller agrees, then you submit that credit on an addendum to the lender and the lender adds it in and the escrow adds it in. Yeah.
Mhm. And then you still go through the final walkthrough?
Absolutely. The final walkthrough is not to verify that repairs are done. It's to verify that the home is in the condition that you want to take possession. So like I've done final walkthroughs and the seller still has stuff in their house. And we're like, are they getting this out before close of escrow? Sometimes I've done a final walkthrough and the grass is up to my waist. That's not their breach of contract. The grass needs to be the same height that it was when I offered on the property. Cut the grass. Like I'm no joke. I will stop escrow for the seller to cut the grass. I will stop escrow if there's garbage cans missing. I will stop escrow if there's anything wrong. Because my buyer put in an offer for the property to look like this. The property doesn't look like that. Get it done. Most listing agents understand and they're like, oh crap, I forgot to mow the lawn. Let me call somebody, right? And they get somebody out there to mow the lawn.
I made the seller come back and pick up his dog poop. He left a whole lot of dog poop, and I was fine with all the other trash he left.
Yeah.
I just took it as is, but I was like, I'm not picking up this guy's dog poop. No way.
100%. You have to leave the property in a clean fashion.
Good.
So that's why, like, now I've sold properties that are completely trashed. There is stuff in the entire property all the way to the back. Did you know that the contract defaults to all of that stuff being gone? The contract specifically states the seller will give the property to the buyer vacant, and in a broom swept. I don't even think it says broom swept, but it says clean state. I have not closed escrow because the house is dirty. Like they moved all their furniture out and then they left dust bunnies everywhere, or they didn't clean the floors, or they didn't. Yeah, I've stopped escrow. I'm like, nope, close escrow. Nope, stop it. We need a professional cleaner to come in here and clean the property, or you need to clean the property, or we will not close. Which do you want it to be? So the final walkthrough is very important, and it should be happening a few days before they release to record. I personally like to do it the same day as the buyer and the buyer signs. The seller signing can happen whenever. Sometimes sellers sign halfway through the escrow. They've already signed documents, they're done. And sometimes they wait until the last minute. So yeah. Any other questions about this?
No, it's pretty clear cut. It's very nice to see that.
Yeah, pretty clear cut, right? So
Yep,
you've got, I'm in escrow, now what? And you've got this perfect 30-day escrow. So now you guys know how it goes. So when you're out there talking with your clients, you have a better understanding of how this process is going to go down. All right,
By
commission.
the way, Amy,
Huh?
I'm closing escrow soon.
Yeah, that's exciting. Okay, so commission demands. You guys need to know that you're ultimately responsible for the commissions and the amounts that are owed to everyone around you. Okay, so your transaction coordinator is going to submit a commission demand. Okay, the commission demand is going to have a lot of things on it. I'm going to show you what one looks like. Okay. So here is a commission demand. This is the demand that's going to go to escrow. It's got your company, it's got the property address, it's got the buyer's name. It'll tell the seller's name, the buyer's name, the title company, the closing officer. It'll have the closing date, the contract date, the sales price, and the total commission amount. The reason that this is going to be sent to you is because this goes to the escrow company. See how it only has one check on here for 15,000? That's the check that we want escrow to send to us. So you're going to receive this one. This is escrows. If you ever receive this, you don't need to worry about this. This is going to escrow. Megan, our MCA, sends it to the escrow officer, and then whoever else is owed a commission on the property. So then let's put this in and look at the one that you're going to receive too. You're going to receive two different ones. Commission demand, that's this one. That's going to go to escrow. The agent breakdown is for you. It's going to tell you the same stuff at the top, but it's going to break down the commission and how it's being paid out, right? So gross commission is 15,000 on this property. South Hall Investors, that's the Sacramento office. They're going to take out their 20%. So I like to always get out my calculator and make sure that they did their calculations correctly. Do you trust anybody with your money? I wouldn't, even professionals. So I always get out my calculator and I go, all right, 15,000 times 0.20, $3,510. Okay, so what's the extra 510? %. So what's the 510? If there's 15,000 times 0.26, 3,900. So South Hall Investors could have potentially taken out the wrong amount on this. They're supposed to take out 3,000 for the 20%. And then there needs to be another 6% taken out for Keller Williams International. This is wrong. Right away, it's automatically wrong, right? Okay, so then this is the agent. The agent's going to get their portion. Now, in this case, the agent's getting more money than they should. So sometimes you're getting more money than you should, right? I would still, what this means is that it's just going to take him longer to cap. So South Hall Investors, so this is kind of goes into our financial class, which we're not going to get to cover everything, but I want to at least cover like how your commissions break down, because we get a lot of questions about that. So when you get this, make sure that you're calculating it out. If it's wrong, like say that you're like, oh, the office is taking out $400 less. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I get to keep an extra 400. Yes, fine. That's great. But it's going to take you longer to cap. It's going to take you longer to pay off that 15,000. It's going to take you longer to pay off that 3,000. That's all. It's not a big deal. It happens. Sometimes I tell them, sometimes I don't. Just being honest. like sometimes I catch it and I'm like, oh, I owe them money. Like they should take this out. And then they will. Or I'm like, oh, I forgot. Oh, well, they'll get me on the next one. So don't worry. They're going to get your money. They're just going to get you on the next one. Okay. Okay. So this is what the agent gets out of the transaction. And then this is the coaching fee. The South Hall Investors, this is the transaction fee. So this is for Bruce and whoever's auditing at the time to go through your file and make sure that everything is correct, that you're not going to get sued. And then they put that file together.
Is that including TC?
That's not for the TC. No, a TC is $350. So I'll show you another one. Let's go DA. They usually call them DAs. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. So here's this one. Let's see if they calculated it correctly. Here's the total commission amount, 8747.50. Can you guys see my calculator too? Sweet. we're gonna minus 20%. 17,400. So she may have already paid a portion of her commission, right? So sometimes we don't owe the full 26%. So it looks like 8747.50. Oh, I mean, Melinda's on my team. Minus 18%. What? 8747.50. This does not look good for the office. Minus 18, or maybe it's 18 plus 6. So 18%. She must have already paid off 1574. She must have already paid off some of it, and she's capping. Does that make sense? Like they're not taking the full amount because Melinda's probably paid too much. But this would be something I would look into. If I was the agent, I would be like, hey, this doesn't look right. Like you're not calculating it right. So, but it looks like Melinda's getting more than she should, essentially. So then let's look at mine. So
That's for a 500.
huh?
500. That's for a 500. I'm reading it like for what amount of property for that commission.
It's a 349,900 commission. Or sorry, purchase price.
Okay.
The commission is $8,474.50. The office is supposed to take out their 26%. Melinda's probably paid too much, and now they're only taking out what they owed left, right? And then it's broken up. So Melinda's on my team. So this is Melinda's portion, and then this is my portion. The office takes out $125. And then this is a transaction coordinator fee. See, Premier Transactions, they take out
okay.
50. Yeah. So the other guy didn't use a transaction coordinator for that transaction. Okay. Let's see
That
another.
really help a lot though.
Oh yeah, I would never not use one. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. Let's see if we can find one that's like calculated correctly. All right, so $13,000 commission. Here it is, $13,000 commission.
Nice.
And then we're going to take away 26%. So it looks like he probably already paid up his 6%. And now they're only doing this amount. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm doing this wrong. Let's do this one. So my fee is taken off of the top. All commissions are calculated based off of what the agent actually receives. My fee is taken off of the top as a referral fee. So let's try this again. I'm like, why is this wrong? Because I know that our office is better than this. Okay, so 13,000, we're going to minus my fee of 1,300. Now everything is going to be calculated off of this. We're going to minus 26%. There it is.
There it is.
There it is. Okay, so Southall Investors is going to take their 26%. So 20% goes to the brokerage towards the $15,000 cap. 6% goes towards the KW royalty towards the $3,000 cap. Right? So now they owe, if we have a total of $18,000 to pay for the year, this agent now owes $15,000 instead. They get this commission, $8,183. Here's my coaching fee. And Southall Investors takes a $125 fee. Premier Transaction takes $350. Sorry, guys, we could probably go back and look at those other DAs and I could figure it out now. Where's Melinda's? Here we go. Let's look at Melinda's and make sure we're calculated it right. So 8747, oops, where's my calculator? All right, so 8747.50. Melinda's on my team. I get 40% of this transaction. So we're going to minus 40%. 349.99. So that leaves her with 5,248, right? And then we take away 26%. So right around there. I probably took away too much. She's probably already paid her little 6%, so that's not coming off, but pretty close. That's how it's calculated. So if you're on a team, if you have a referral, if you owe a coaching fee, it's taken off of the top. So that way you're not paying 26% on this amount. You're paying 26% on the amount you're actually getting. So you get more of your paycheck. Okay, Robert?
Okay, just to better understand the way this one was broken down, in this particular scenario, Miss Melinda, she paid 40%, right?
To me, correct.
Is that because being on your team, was she given like a lead, like a hot lead or something, or?
On my team,
Uh-huh.
no, this was her lead that she brought to the team.
So,
On my team,
yeah.
the deal that I have with Melinda is that if I give her a lead, I get 60%. If she brings a lead to the team, I get 40%.
Okay. This is just a wild
Ask
wild
away.
question, but how come so when we're not on a team, it would be like we owe you 10% for coaching, but if we're on your team, we would owe you 40% for coaching?
Well, when you're on my team, there's a lot more that goes into it besides coaching.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm asking, because I don't know, you know.
Yeah. Every team is different. Every team is different. Some people offer certain things for their team. Some people are on a 50-50 split.
Okay.
Melinda is my right hand. She handles everything for a lot of things for my team. She also works for my coaching business. Melinda is a brand new agent. She's been in the business she's been licensed since earlier this year. And there's a lot of hand holding that goes into this. So I go on appointments with her. I help her through all of it. So there's a lot more that goes into when you're on someone's team. There's way more than coaching that goes into it. So that's why she's willing to pay me, right? I've also given her deals. So I don't work buyers. If I get a buyer lead from anywhere, I give it to her. I don't work buyers.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So like on a coaching agent, let's go DA. Oh, DA. Let's go like here. So this is an agent in coaching. You can see that here's the gross commission. The office takes their 26%. And then Jose gets the rest, and I only take my 10% coaching fee. Also on my team, Melinda gets the glory of I pay this fee. So I pay the 125 and I pay the TC fee. So yeah, she's paying me a larger portion. She's paying me a portion of the commission. I pay for all of her advertising. I pay for everything that she needs in her business. If she needs business cards, I pay for them. If she needs open house signs, I pay for them. If she wants to buy this gift for her client, I pay for it. I pay for the transaction fee. I pay for the transaction coordinator. So there's a lot that comes in with being on a team. There's a lot of support that you receive, and it's usually monetary to take care of some of your expenses. Not every team does that. In fact, a lot of teams, they don't pay this fee and they don't pay the transaction coordinator. The agent pays that. Sometimes they have a transaction coordinator on the team. They don't pay one at all. Sometimes they pay, sometimes if it's a lead from the team, you get like 25%. So it really just depends on what team you join.
So one more question to add to that. At what point do we determine ourselves as new agents, or do the coaches extend that opportunity? Hey, I want you to be on my team. When does that happen? Or is it a certain amount of transactions before you're offered a position to be on a team?
You're never offered a position to be on a team unless you interview for teams. So if you're looking at a team if you're looking at joining a team, you would have to go. So let me back up. Every real estate agent is an independent contractor. So my real estate business is mine. How I run it is determined by me. Who joins my team is determined by me. If I even want a team, it's determined by me. Okay. So that means that every single team is ran by an individual owner. So you could interview with one team and you get all this stuff and then you could interview with another team and you get nothing. Does that make sense? And so, like the first team that I ever joined, he just didn't want to do his business. He wanted to go run on a boat. And I was like, well, I'll run your business for you. And so I got 60%. He got 40% of everything. I got 60% of everything that I did. I was an experienced agent. I was an award. I already won awards. I'd already established myself as an experienced agent, and he didn't have to train me on anything. Like, he literally just handed me his business and said, okay, leave me alone. And then I just sold houses for him. He paid for everything. So when I wanted new headshots because I changed my hair, he paid the $300 for me to go get headshots, right? When I needed signs, when I needed lock boxes, when I needed everything, he paid for it. And I just ran the business. We had no administrative assistant. He had a CRM that got me leads, internet leads. So I worked the internet leads. I worked my business. I worked his business that he would send me every once in a while. And we were considered a team. It was easy for me because it was just like, okay, somebody's taking care of my expenses. They're providing me with leads. This is great. There are teams that don't provide leads. They are still very valuable. So the thing is that a team providing leads means absolutely nothing. If they're not going to train you how to work those leads or give you some sort of system to work those leads, it's like, I can give you leads to do that, you know? So really what you're getting in with a team, it's up to you too. Also, I didn't want to have to go to like team meetings and script practice. And I don't know if you guys know, like, I love you all, but I'm not a people person really. And when I was a solo agent, I became a solo agent because I didn't want to work in an office. I wanted to be on my own. So when I joined my team, I liked it because he was going to leave me alone, right? Well, if you're a brand new agent and you don't know what you're doing, definitely don't want to join a team that's just going to leave you alone, right? You want to join a team that's going to get you involved. So some teams have a very strict schedule. Like if you join Jake DeRosa's team, you're going to be in the office from 8:30 a.m. until noon making phone calls. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Jeremy has a team, and this is just my office. There's teams all at both offices, a ton of them. Jeremy's team, they don't necessarily have set call times. You just need to get your stuff done, right? And they have team meetings and they have team building and stuff like that. Jeremy has a database of 26,000 leads. So if you join his team for your first couple deals, you're only going to get like 25% because he has to show you every step of the way, right? So if you're looking for a team, the best thing for you to do is to go to the office, go to a team meeting, go to a training, and then go knock on the doors of all the teams in the office and say, hi, I'm a new agent. I'm looking for a team. And then you would interview with each one of them to see which one's going to give me what I'm looking for. The other thing about teams is that each of us have our own ways that we generate business. So like me and Melinda, I'm heavy on my sphere. In fact, most of my business is referral based. So people call me and say, hey, can you help me buy and sell a home? So I'm teaching Melinda how to do that. Right? We're not internet leads. I'm not providing her with a bunch of internet leads. I'm not providing her with for sale by owners, nothing like that. I'm teaching her how to run her business like I run my business. That's a good thing and a bad thing. She's only learning what I learn or what I teach her, right? Some teams do internet leads and then you're learning how to work internet leads. Some teams only do open houses. Do you see what I mean? So that's why you want to interview with a bunch, because you're basically interviewing for a job. That's the other thing. You're no longer your own boss, by the way. As soon as you join a team, you gave up owning your own business and being your own boss. You now have a job and you work for somebody and they're going to have expectations of you. And their expectations are high because you're selling for them. So they have a goal and they want to hit it. And you're supposed to be part of that helps them hit that goal. So expectations can be high. Some teams have very low expectations. And you probably won't find success with those, right? So I hope that's helpful.
I have a question. As our coach, what what would you recommend us to would you recommend us to be part of any team, or
Sorry, your phone broke up. What'd you say?
as our coach, would you recommend us to be part of any team, or would you want us to like try on being a solo agent first,
You're in
or
coaching.
do you think it would benefit us?
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry, your phone's kind of breaking up, so that's why. If you're in coaching, I'm your coach for your first 3 deals, regardless if you get on a team or not. So even if you went out tomorrow and joined a team, your next couple deals, I'm still going to be your coach. You're still going to pay me. It's still a thing. You can negotiate with the team on who pays me, but it's usually split somehow or whatever. You have to interview for these teams. So you can't just go join a team. Like you can't just say, oh, I'm going to join your team now. That's not how it works. You have to interview with them. They have to like you. They have to want you to be on their team. And you have to think about it like you're synergizing your business with their business. And so the other thing is that they're not just going to hand you leads without you bringing something to the team too. So they're going to want your database. They're going to want you. In fact, a lot of teams, in order to get leads, you have to have a database of 200 people. So there's a little bit of work that goes into it ahead of time. And most teams, again, they're hiring and the talent pool is thick. So you're not the only one that's like, hey, I want to join the team. There's like 5 other people. And so you're up against them. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm just going by what I know. But yeah, there's multiple teams at Sac Metro. There's multiple teams at Fair Oaks, and you can figure out which one suits you best and then go from there. But I always recommend that if you're thinking about a team, interview all of them. And then you'll get a really clear picture about what's available to you and what your options are. Robert.
Okay, so that's cleared up my next question. It was that I was under the impression that I was part of your team because you were the coach. So I thought we were all a team, but now I understand that I'm not on a team. I'm just kind of, I'm here, right?
You're considered a solo agent.
Uh-huh. So at what point would you recommend that I consider, joining a team and, selling myself and offering the team, what I can offer, even though right now I don't have any deals, I can't offer that, but I could, there's other things that,
Yeah.
At what point do I join a team? Do you know, or is there like a rule of thumb or maybe some guidance on that, on when to join a team?
Yeah. That is 100% up to you. Just because you join a team, it does not mean you're going to get business. Like joining a team doesn't mean they're going to hand you a buyer, especially if you're brand new and you haven't done any business yet. Like Melinda joined my team and I'm going to be vulnerable. Melinda joined my team. She had been my assistant for like a year ahead of time. So I trusted her a lot. And when I meet with a buyer, I meet with Melinda and I'm like, this is Melinda. She's going to handle it. Melinda is the bomb. Melinda has owned businesses before. She has a lot of sales stuff that's natural for her. So I was totally okay. Like, here you go. She knows how I handle business. She knows what I'm doing. Right. But she was with me for like a year before that happened. And I love Melinda so much because when we sat down to talk about our team, she was like, well, what are you going to offer me? I love her. She was like, why would I join your team? She'd been my admin for a year. And she's like drilling me like, well, why should I join your team? And I was like, oh God, I just kind of assumed you wanted to. Okay, great. Well, let's talk about it. Here's what I'm going to offer you. And so there's that. As a brand new agent, I wanted to do it on my own. I needed to do it on my own. And I did, because I did what I was in coaching too. I got signed up with Keller Williams. I had a coach and she told me, call everybody that you know and tell them you're in the business. And I did. And I got business. I literally had my first contract within a month. So there's agents out there or there's lots of different people that join into real estate, right? And they get into real estate for lots of different reasons. And sometimes they've never had a job before. And sometimes they've never had a sales job before. And sometimes they're like starting from scratch. I don't even know how to open an email, right? So you have to kind of determine like, where are you at? And can you do this on your own? I 100% believe that all of you can do this on your own. You just have to do what I'm telling you to do. And what's really funny to me is that I have agents that I'm like, do this, do this, do this, and they don't do it and they get no business. And then they go and join a team and the team tells them to do it and then they do it. Some of us need a boss. Some of us don't take advice very well, right? Like I'm a top producing agent. I have a successful business, multiple, and I'm telling you exactly what to do to get business. And people are like, I don't know what to do. And then they join a team. They tell them the exact same thing I'm telling them. And they gave up 50% for that. No team is going to just give you business. It's pretty rare. You have to earn that. So I'm kind of like, I think teams are amazing. And I think that, I mean, if there was a team for everybody, I'd be like, join a team. But also you got into this business to be your own boss. You got into this business to build your own business. And being on a team is fantastic, but you're no longer building your business. You're building somebody else's business. Melinda and I talk about this a lot. My team structure is quite a bit different than most team structures. And Melinda gets credit for all of her sales. And my ultimate goal is to help her build her own business so that she can leave me. That is not the ultimate goal of most teams. Most teams, their ultimate goal is for them to get more sales and for their salespeople to stay there and continue to help them to get more sales, right? But Melinda's my friend. There's just a lot that goes into that. When I was working on my previous team, I negotiated up front. I'm taking 60% of everything because you don't have to train me. I don't need you. And I get credit for all my sales. So like, you're not going to take credit. You're not going to be on my contracts. I kind of knew what I was doing. I was able to negotiate something that fit for me. And then I got business given to me because he knew that if he handed me $1 million buyer, I was going to know exactly what to do with it. There were other people that joined our team later that did not get that same deal. Does that make sense? Like there were people that were brand new that joined and they got 40%. He would not hand them any business. All he gave them was internet leads because they hadn't like earned it yet, right? So I would say kind of think about where you're at and how you're. I tried with coaching to provide everything that you would need in order to start your own real estate business. And the office even provides you with leads through OpCity and things like that. But if you're feeling like, I really want to be part of a team, or I want to have closer mentorship, or I want to get business given to me, then the best bet would be for you to go around and interview all the teams and find out who's going to give you those things. Right? That's kind of where I'm at with that. So it's really up to you. And I can also meet with you individually and talk to you about your business and where you're at. And then I can put you in contact with certain teams. But I think it's always good to see also options, man. Everybody likes to have options. So I would say, even if you're if you're like, I'm not even going to join a team, go interview them anyways. Like you might stumble upon an opportunity and you're like, oh crap, I am going to take this, So it's kind of like, it's really up to you, but I'm here as your coach to help you navigate that. Absolutely. Yes, Jenny.
Just want to let you know, Amy, I've always been in the office for the past, since I started, I always go in the office. If there's anything, I've been there. I've been reaching out. I actually know someone in the office who's been in a team for way longer than I do and haven't even closed any deal yet. So Yeah, so I totally understand you. I totally know exactly what you're talking about. There's no guarantee being a team. I do know some people in the office that they are regretting being part of the team, but they also have choices to be out if they wanted to or things like that. But it was I've also hear in the office that you are really great. What you do, you are amazing, and I see that, and I am walking through to that. So things that you are teaching in this Zoom meeting is 100% on point. I just want to let you know.
I
I
appreciate you.
wish that I knew this before I got my deals, but I'm actually learning as I go with my deals, and I go back to your record and the old. I watch your videos and in the older videos, and I look back into it, and I really look into that. I wanted to ask you though, like, what is your thought on grow? How about growing your team? You're growing your business.
Growing a team.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have some big thoughts on growing a team. You have to be able to provide value. And and you have to be able to provide coaching. You have to be able to walk somebody through an escrow.
Okay.
You have to provide something that's going to, so like I pay for Melinda's advertising. When Melinda needs business cards, I pay for them. When Melinda needs a buyer's gift, I pay for it. When she needs an escrow or when she needs a lockbox, I pay for it. A sign, I pay for it. Open house signs, I pay for it. So when she came to me and said, I want to do open houses, but we don't have any open house signs, I dropped $300 for open house signs. When she says, I want to do this listing up in this other county and we're not a part of that MLS, you know, we're going to work out who's going to pay for that. So, and trust me, when I first got into the business, I closed 17 deals my first year. Everybody told me to start a team. Everybody said, go start a team. You're amazing. You have sales experience. You have all this. But like, what happens if I don't sell anything and I need to pay for the team advertising? What happens if I bring Melinda onto my team and I provide her with no coaching or no explanation, or I can't answer her questions? Is she going to want to pay me 60% of her deal when I can't answer her questions? So that's why I joined a team. Honestly, I had closed 17 deals my first year. Everybody was like, oh my God, you're a dynamo, like whatever. And I was like, I feel like I don't know anything at all. And I actually feel like I need some more hands-on stuff. Like I need to see somebody run a team. So that's when I partnered with that guy, Roy, and I started running his team for him. And I ran a team. So he paid for everything, but I managed it. I hired the agents, I managed the agent, I managed their escrows, I walked them through everything. So I had like 2 to 3 years on that team of learning how to run a team. And then I got off of that team in 2020, and I didn't start my own team until this year. Now, that doesn't mean that I did it the right way. There are plenty of people that have been in the business for a few years and they have the lead capacity, the business capacity, and the mental capacity in order to build agents up. So, do I think you should start a team now? I'm going to be 100% honest. No, no, it will implode on you. And the reason being is that you know, any agent that's only been in the business for even a year doesn't really know what they don't know. And there's going to become a time where your agents are going to be, especially right now, transactions are down 40%. Everybody that's on a team right now is looking at their team leader and thinking, I'm giving you 50%. What are you giving to me? Right? And so that's what you run into. I left the team that I left because he stopped providing me with more than I could provide myself. So I left because I outgrew him. So that's another thing is that you know, you could start a team and you could spend all this money on an agent and then they just leave. That's the worst, right? That's why I was really particular with Melinda. Me and Melinda sat down and we had multiple conversations. I'm going to mute you, honey. Multiple conversations about what the team was going to look like and what was going to be provided and how we were going to manage things. So I would say that it's a deeper conversation than like, are you going to provide me with leads? Because you could jump on any team and they could provide you with leads and then you still have no business 3 months later and you're like, this sucks. Or you hop on a team and they provide you leads, but you did all the work and you hand them 50%. That's rough, right? That's super rough. So yeah, I think teams are amazing. I think everybody should start a team eventually. So like once you've gotten a couple years in or you've gotten enough experience and you have the money to support a team, then 100% start a team. It's the best way for you to create leverage. Like it's beautiful because me and Melinda back each other up. So like if she can't go show the property, I will. If I can't go do something, she will. So there is a beauty of it is that we support each other. But she definitely, I will say, like, she's my employee and she's on my team. So like she feels obligated when I have a listing come up and we need an open house that weekend. She feels obligated to hold the open house, right? There's like stuff that obligations that come with it. So yeah, I hope that helped. But I love teams. I think teams are a great way to make more money. Like I can do more with more people. We can help more people with more people. Does that make sense? I can only sell a certain amount of homes on my own. But together, we can sell a lot. All right, guys. Any other questions for me before I let you go?
Great class. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, so glad. All right, if you have any other questions and you didn't get to ask them here, you can always reach out to me and I'll answer them anytime. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Amy.
I will see you
Bye,
all tomorrow.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.